Family and fellow soldiers, I'm the professor, and this is the moment of truth.
Going around right now, a lot of this conversation about President Biden getting criticized from both sides of the aisle for pardoning his son Hunter after repeatedly saying he would never do it. And a lot of people are saying that it's hypocritical, et cetera, as if the other side doesn't do it. But what's your reaction to it?
I mean, I think all of the criticism is valid because, Democrats stand on this moral high ground all the time. And, they act so self-righteous. The reality is he didn't have to say anything in regards to, whether or not, his son wanted to be pardoned. He could have said, hey, man, I'm not focused on that right now. But since they were calling Trump a threat to democracy and they were saying that, nobody's above the law, but they were speaking about him, that's what they were running on. So when he kept saying things like, nobody's above the law, I respect, the jury's decision in regards to my son, he didn't believe that. But he didn't have to volunteer that lie to begin with.
I'm going to stop you for a second.
Uh-oh.
Only because you don't know that it was a lie. We don't know why he changed his mind.
You really think he just changed his mind over Thanksgiving weekend all of a sudden?
No, I'm going to tell you what I think.
Okay. Yeah.
I think he changed his mind because he got sick of watching everybody else get over.
You don't have to do that.
So we're mad at him because he changed his...
Oh, no. By the way, I'm not mad at him pardoning Hunter Biden.
But you sound like you're
mad. No.
Okay. Yeah. Democrats are not a monolith.
But why can't you say when Democrats are wrong? And why can't Republicans say when Republicans are wrong?
I'll tell you when Democrats are
wrong. So you don't think Joe Biden is wrong?
No, I don't. And can I just point this out to you? The president has a pardon power,
you're ridiculous.
Right? I didn't say you were ridiculous, Ms. Goldberg. Yeah, I would never. I said that. I just think that's ridiculous.
Oh, poor Whoopi. She's basically a de facto member of Shea Butter Bootlicks, and that being the case, as a longtime member in good standing, this woman really can't be counted on to say anything intelligent. She's a lifelong denizen of the white media's cult of fame, but of course, she's not alone. Talk about the right tool for the job, bringing on Charlamagne the fraud to act as a foil for what to me feels and smells like some sort of thinly veiled PR stunt. I don't trust anything that comes from the white media or any of these bootlicks who work for them because I've seen too many things too many times. But for the sake of argument, let's go ahead and say that there was a kernel of authenticity to this. And given the character of both Whoopi Goldberg and Charlamagne the fraud, a kernel of authenticity is the most you can hope for. Of course, these two are going to wind up at each other's throats, because when flunkies and lackeys don't have their masters to tell them what to do, they just tear into each other. That's all that they're good for. They certainly won't be wagging their finger at Massa. Now, mark your calendars, family, because this will be the first and hopefully last time that I agree with Charlamagne the fraud on anything. But at least rhetorically, he does have a point, one which the black media also pointed out. It would have been one thing if Biden, when asked, are you going to pardon your son, if he had said, I'm not going to comment on ongoing litigation, or it would be highly improper for me to comment on an ongoing prosecution, or to say that this is something my predecessor Trump did multiple times, commenting on ongoing prosecutions and is horrible for democracy, so I'm not even going to touch it. He could have sidestepped it, he could have deflected, or just refused to answer. All of those are valid things to do, but he didn't do that precisely because of the fact that he knew everybody would see right through it. He wanted to be able to falsely claim that he had the moral high ground and didn't abuse his power like Trump had. Well, it seems the orange man isn't the only person who was willing to say anything to win the election. Of course, as we all know, Hunter Biden wound up being convicted, not surprisingly, and Biden turned on a dime. He had repeatedly said that he wouldn't pardon his junkie son. His press secretary said the same thing. Biden reinforced this multiple times in multiple interviews, unequivocally saying he would respect the opinion of the jury. And yet he turned and did it anyway, and didn't even have the courage to face the American people and explain it. Now, there will be those who say, well, presidents don't explain pardons, and that's true because the vast majority of them are done to bail out political allies who the president owes some heavy favors to. But Biden's case is different because Biden lied. He lied through his teeth over the course of several weeks, and he had other members of his administration repeat the same lie multiple times. When he was sitting there repeatedly promising that he wasn't going to pardon his son no matter what the outcome of the trial, even after his son was convicted, Biden was still saying that he respected the jury's verdict and wouldn't pardon him. He knew all along that he was going to issue a pardon right after the election. Now, what do you call that other than a lie? And Whoopi didn't just make herself look desperate, she made herself look stupid trying that passive-aggressive ploy about, you sound angry. Well, she was the one who was angry, clearly, and she was trying to project onto him. She could see that she was losing her cool. Whoopi Goldberg needs to stick to slurping Metamucil and making stupid jokes that don't land, because her political IQ is so low that she's simply not qualified to speak on anything. Joe Biden was claiming that his son was being persecuted by his own DOJ. I guess it's because the president had it in for him, huh? Now, by the way, who does that sound like? A president who's in office claiming that the DOJ is working against them. Oh yeah, that's exactly what Donald Trump was saying. I'm surprised that Joe Biden wasn't talking about the deep state. Politicians are creatures of self-interest. And that being the case, they're always telling lies about what they do, and most of all, they lie about why they do it. They take these actions, which are completely and thoroughly self-serving, stuff that they do merely for the sake of their own political expediency, and they try to twist it, put the right spin on it, and make it sound as if, oh, this was a moment of moral portent, and I had to do X, Y, Z because it was such a great thing. I had to meet the moment. When the truth of the matter was, he saw something that he wanted to get done. He didn't care how it got done. He went ahead and did it, and then afterwards, now let me go ahead and tell you what didn't happen. Now, the amazing thing, of course, is you got all these other people who are on federal death row, largely because of Biden's law, aka the 94 crime bill, and Joe Biden's not doing anything for them. I guess his pen ran out of ink, huh? So you got Kamala Harris lying through her teeth about what she was promising people during the election, and Biden doing the exact same thing. Now, I want you to tell me again, how is this any different or any better than the Orange Man? And something else that needs to be mentioned that Charlamagne the fraud didn't even have the guts to mention. If Joe Biden was lying through his teeth about this, lying repeatedly about it, then what the hell you think Biden's been doing for the last 4 years when he's been telling the American people, and especially black people, repeatedly the same thing over and over again? Oh, I can't do this, can't do that. Oh, I'm trying so hard to do this, that, and the third. This is a microcosm of his entire administration, and Kamala Harris's part in it. Just lying through their teeth. Now again, these are the people who 4 years ago we were told they were America's hope, and they were certainly the only thing standing between black people and oblivion, and look what the guy's doing, lying through his teeth. You better believe that he's been sitting here telling us all kinds of things that simply aren't true. And when it comes to his rationale for springing his son out of a possible prison sentence, you better believe it has to do with him too. He's concerned about it. Because if you start asking questions about what Hunter Biden was doing with Burisma, it wouldn't take very long at all before you had probably 1 degree of separation between Hunter and Joe Biden. There is no way in hell that the Ukrainian government was going to be making any sort of deals, substantive, frivolous, or otherwise, with a drug-addled punk like Hunter Biden. The only way they're going to be making deals is if Joe Biden was involved. And we've seen this before. When it comes to petroleum companies, W was depending on his father's political connections in order to make sure that he could work for some of these oil companies, like Arbusto Drilling, Spectrum 7, and most notably, Harkin Oil. So the Bush family's doing it, the Bidens are doing it, all these scumbags are doing it because that's the very reason that you go to D.C. in the first place. It's no secret that most of these politicians go into the Beltway broke and they come out filthy, stinking rich. That's why they go in there, so they can be close to all these companies, become part of that political machine. They get rich when the corporations make everyone around them rich. It's very rare that these corporations actually hand somebody the proverbial envelope full of cash. The way they do it is they make sure that your kids or your siblings or spouse or whatever, these people get caked off, and of course the politician gets a piece of that. You better believe that if people start asking serious questions about what was going on in 2014 and forward with Burisma Oil, it won't be long before it's not just Hunter's name that comes up, it's going to be Joe Biden's name coming up. And Biden claimed he didn't know anything about what Hunter was doing, he had no knowledge of it. If that was true, I sincerely doubt that he would be making the moves that he's making. But that's the point that nobody was touching on. And even Charlamagne was willing to bring it up. Nobody was asking, hey, did Joe Biden know anything about it? And if so, what did he know and when did he know it? And notice how neither Whoopi Goldberg nor anyone else was willing to address the fact that Biden had lied through his teeth. None of them wanted to touch that. All Whoopi was willing to say is that Biden was tired of watching people getting over. Well, I gave you the rundown about how it is that Hunter Biden has been a junkie his entire adult life. This guy got himself into the Navy, at least on paper. He wasn't actually an active duty member of the Navy. It was simply a ceremonial post of that. But it was because of his father. And then when he predictably got himself kicked out of the Navy because of his drug habit, it was his father who made sure that he got a soft landing. If Hunter Biden's last name wasn't Biden, he would have been in jail many times over. Why is he not? Because of his father. Talk about getting over. Joe Biden wrote the book on that one, using his position to make sure that his kids get all of these perks, privileges, and entitlements, and making sure that black people are demonized morning, noon, and night. He's not concerned about people getting over. He wants to make sure that it's just him, and he's been doing this for decades. But look at how Whoopi Goldberg decided that she was going to lie, and so he was tired of seeing people getting over. Oh, like he's been doing. And this is why being a bootlick and being a shill is a career track that doesn't come with a retirement plan. So-called consultants and the like, they get paid by sucking up to whomever will pay their exorbitant fees. So for them, lying to their clients is just fine because that's how you drum up business. On the other hand, if you're not one of the incompetent operative class and you depend on an audience for your paycheck, then you can play the fool for a candidate, but after that candidate is exposed, they lose their credibility, and so do you. Charlamagne's not to be taken seriously on important matters, but for the low IQ dregs who listen to him, he at least wants to put forward the flimsy appearance that he has something valid, I suppose, to say about matters of the day. But he sure didn't sound all skeptical like he was on The View when he was given a sloppy kiss of an interview to Kamala Harris. In that case, he was basically giving her one softball after the next, basically telling her that she was the second coming. This is a shill who is now trying to preserve whatever ragged bit of credibility he might have had. That's what you see him doing. Biden's not going to be president in a month, so it's okay for Charlamagne to criticize him lightly, and notice that he limited his criticism to Biden alone. He didn't say anything about Hunter, didn't say anything about Kamala Harris. Now understand something. Without the black media, this would be the only viewpoints you would see. Bootlicks competing to see which one of them can be the loudest and the wrongest. Neither one of them supported Trump, and that being the case, they're not depending on him to give them any interviews or what have you. Far as they're concerned, there's more than enough celebrity politicians in the Democrat camp for them to be able to fill out whatever content gaps that they have. But what Whoopi Goldberg did is to put on a first-class performance as to why being slavishly devoted to the Democrats is a horrible idea. Because that's something she would never do for Trump. And what it comes down to is at the end of the day, she feels as if the Democrats are going to be supporting her own relevance, which for her is the coin of the realm. That's how she keeps her job. But obviously, this is not going to be the beginning of some major rift between Charlamagne and Whoopi. Hell, the two of them were hugging it out at the end of the segment. In order for these two to be at each other's throats full time, first they would need to have some rock-solid principles, and they don't. They both work for the white media, and because of that, they understand that even their so-called arguments are only allowed if they stay inside certain predetermined parameters. Parameters given to them by the white media, which is the mouthpiece for established white power. Whoopi Goldberg in particular has a bad habit of pulling stunts like this meant to get some quickie headlines, especially during sweeps week. And this certainly got some attention, though it was a tempest in a teapot. I'm sure the marketing people over at ABC are pleased. Well, I don't know about you, but I have no interest in political soap opera, which is all this was. And that being the case, I can suggest a name for it: As the Stomach Churns. Good day, and be one. I'd like to take a moment to mention some of our contributors: Hildman Gallo, Mrs. Scott, Stay Positive, Otis Pimpleton, and Asfeo Dingaswayo. Salute to them and thank you to everyone for listening, liking, and sharing this message. Black empowerment only exists because of you.